Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of the Podiatry Legends podcast. With me today is another legend. I have Zoe Wilson. She is an MSK Podiatrist based in the Lake District in the north of England. Now, if you're in England, you probably know where the Lake District is. If you're from Australia, you have no idea. You just know it's over in the UK there somewhere. She is the owner of ZW Clinics, and we've been friends for a little while on social media, but Zoe came across I know her just recently because she won a business award, which we will touch on. But before we get there, we're going to learn a little bit more about Zoe. So Zoe, how are you doing this morning?
Oh, I'm great. Thank you. I'm really, really good. I'm really excited to be here. I can't wait to chat to you hopefully for the next hour. And I really look forward to, seeing what we're going to cover today.
Yeah, people always ask me, how long does the podcast go for? I said, well, it depends a lot on the guest.
No, might be a while then.
Nearly everybody. I've had some people where we've had to extend it to a double episode because it's just been what we've been talking about has been so good. I haven't wanted to end it, so I just keep the podcast going, and at a certain point, I know that I'll split it into two. And I've only ever had one person, not on Podiatry Legends, but on my old podcast, the It's No Secret with Dr. T, where it was like pulling teeth with the guest. Okay, and I asked them a big question, and they'd say, "Yes." And pause, and I go, oh my. And this one time they were talking, but when they spoke, they paused a lot while they talked, and it drove me nuts. So I went through it and I edited out all the pausing just to sort of try and speed the conversation up. When they listened back to the podcast, they said, oh, the podcast was really good, but I think I need to speak a little slower because they felt they spoke too fast. It was because I edited it that way. But yeah, so that's been the only one that was quite difficult. So without further ado, what is the Zoe Wilson story? What got you into podiatry? I'm always interested.
I kind of love this story because I feel like every podiatrist that I speak to has their own personal, reasons for it. And I love that there's a story behind it because I think that's where the passion starts. So I had foot pain when I was a child and I did a lot of sport. I was sort of a regional level of athletics. I used to do high jump and hurdles and just tearing around in general. And I developed foot pain and I was referred to a podiatrist in the NHS. And then, it kind of wasn't straightforward. And then, I went and saw a foot and ankle surgeon and, I ended up seeing a lot of different people. And then I went to this one guy and he firstly recommended just over-the-counter orthotics rehab and so on. And then my pain went. And, there's this lasting memory of, oh, that guy fixed me.
How old were you
never
then?
Really, I was 12.
Okay, so that's stuck in your head.
Yeah, and it was like, I was taping up my toes with my dad's electrical tape because I was in so much pain. And I never forget that. And I just wanted to do my sport, I just wanted to be out there. And
so did you have a pause? Was like from 12 though, was there a period of time you didn't think about podiatry because your feet were fine? Did you think about podiatry again when all of a sudden you go, oh, I'm trying to choose a career, and then podiatry popped up on the list and you went, oh, that's what I want to do? Or at 12, do you go, oh, I want to do this?
No, don't get me wrong. Like at 12 years old, I was like, I love my dog and no one else. It was like, it was not on my radar. And I just wanted to be a vet. That was my sort of beeline career path. And I went down that route and did quite a lot of work around veterinary science, had an interview at university and all of these things. But I worked in a walking boot shop, which sounds cliche, living in the Lake District,
Yeah. What is the Lake District? What's the Lake District? In case people are wondering, what is a lake? Is there a lot of lakes? I take it.
Okay. So I won't talk too much about New Zealand because I know there's an Australia, New Zealand.
Oh no, we get on really well as long as we're not talking about rugby union, netball, any form of sport, marbles, darts. It doesn't matter what it is. We're extremely competitive. However, I always say to people that Australians and New Zealanders are really competitive. They think they invented the pavlova. We say that we did, so we won't go there. But if we were watching, say, the World Cup in rugby union and Australia got knocked out, automatically I'll support New Zealand because they're the closest team. And we all barrack against South Africa.
Okay. Yeah.
And if you're from South Africa and you're listening to this, you know I'm joking, sort of, but not in rugby union.
So it's just mountains. It's mountains, it's lakes, you know, it's very scenic. There's a lot of tourism here. Everybody loves open water swimming, getting out in the fells, going for a run, training for a marathon, cycling, you know, it's a very active place, you know, so it's...
Is that why you're equating it to New Zealand?
A little, you know, it reminds me of New Zealand in parts. So yeah, it's lovely. It's lovely.
It must be, because New Zealand is, if anyone has never been to New Zealand, you must put it like as a must-do holiday place, because I've been 3 times and it never ceases to amaze me. It is a beautiful country.
Yeah.
And they just happen to have the best rugby union team in the world, which is disappointing.
And the best dance. Come on. The best
dance.
The haka, the rugby.
Oh
dance.
yeah, oh the hakas, yeah, amazing. It's yeah. Anyone listening to this in the United States, we go, I have no idea what you're talking about. Don't worry, you'll get the hang of it eventually. So okay, so you were going to go down the vet path, chose not to. What made you sort of go, okay, I'm not going to be a vet, I want to be a podiatrist?
Again, cliche, dog got put to sleep, couldn't do that.
Oh,
so
okay.
You know, and it's surgery for me. Like, I love the surgery, I love the anatomy. You know, I've always had a fascination in anatomy ever since a young age. You know, I'd like operate on my, you know, teddies kind of thing. Like, I was just completely, you know, enthralled with anatomy. And then, you know, the dog got ill and all of that, and then it just was a bit of it fell into place. You know, my feet were still problematic, so I would go back periodically, and it was just this. I was working in this walking boot department. We were helping a lot of people with foot problems, and when I say a lot of people, like, I'd get people coming to visit Zoe in the walking boot shop to come and look at their feet, you know. And then I started doing gait analysis when I was working in a walking shop, and I was like, hang on a minute, this is a little bit of a fascination, you know. And then I would find myself looking at anatomy books of the foot, the ankle, and the lower limb. And then the vet school thing didn't work out. I had an interview and I didn't get past my interview, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then I applied for podiatry. I was a year late going into university just because I'd worked full time. I've always loved to work. You know, I've really always enjoyed earning my keep and throwing myself into my work, no matter what it is, you know. And then they had, you know, I went for an open day to the university and podiatry was it. And
okay, so when you graduated, did you go and work in the NHS first, or did you go straight into a private practice?
No, so I worked for a private practice for 2 years. Now, at this time, I was also volunteering in a surgical unit as well. So I was working 1 day a week for about 2 years in a surgical unit. So I was kind of on my way down the surgical path. As soon as I finished and graduated, I did my master's in Theory of Podiatric Surgery. And it was surgery. And then the private practice just kind of ran alongside the dream of becoming a foot surgeon.
Yeah.
And the private practice got busy, you know, and my mum has a shoe shop, which is like just literally a stone's throw away from the first clinic. So it was kind of like when to take the leap, like when do I get staff to come in and kind of work with me, and then I can go on and pursue my career in podiatric surgery. And that dream's never gone and is still there and still very much lit in my mind.
Yeah.
But, you know, private practice was really fun. It is. So many opportunities. And, you know, I've worked in surgical units ever since and still continue to. And now very lucky to have a podiatric surgeon in my private practice, which is great. But yeah, private practice was fun. you know, and I worked for somebody at the time who, you know, I learned a bit about how to run a practice. I found myself sort of managing the practice and the patients. And then, you know, there was always this burning desire to do it myself. So.
Okay. So the first couple of years you did work for somebody else, but then the passion of thinking, I want to have my own business sort of just kept growing. Was it from day dot you sort of realized I want to have my own practice, or was it like, I want to learn first? And then as you were understanding how the business was running, you think, I would like to do this myself?
Can't remember, to be truthful.
You could make it, you could make something up if you wanted to, but
no, it was a weird thing. It was a weird thing. I was working for someone, loved working for them, learned a lot. It was a sort of national type business. So it wasn't a small business, you know, there was a lot of opportunity there. And, you know, I enjoyed that time, but then I wanted to offer more, and I wanted to give more time, and I wanted to learn more expertise. And, you know, I wanted more. So at a time that was very difficult in my life, my dad, not that, you know, and not that this is a sob story, but, you know, my dad had stage 4 cancer at the time, and I'd decided I was going on my own at that very time.
Yeah,
you know,
and there was
a bit of this kind of, you know, resilience in you, because of the current situation. And I thought, well, anything's possible, you know.
Yeah. How's your dad?
He's great. He's great
good?
now.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. He climbed a mountain last year. So
that's good.
You know.
Yeah. So the part with the private practice you're at, when you said that you wanted to do more, was their scope of practice limited and you felt like, I want to do some other things that they weren't doing? Or you just went, no, I just want to do it myself?
I wanted to do it myself.
Yeah.
Scope, you know, at the time I was very lucky. I had a really good surgical mentor. I learned how to be a really good people person with my patients, and that's always meant, you know, everything to me is their experience. And yeah, it was just right. We're doing this.
So when you set up your first clinic, was there anything that surprised you when you opened it up? Because it's easy to work for somebody else, and a lot of things that go on behind the scenes. When you're an employee, you don't really see what happens behind the scenes. You think you might have an idea. Once you opened up your own practice, was there anything that you sort of went, oh, this is a little bit more complicated than I thought, or did it all just run smoothly?
The accounts, the bookkeeping, the finances. You know, I had no concern about being the practitioner, being the cleaner, being the receptionist, being the clinician, because for a year I did it on my own, the whole thing, you know.
Yeah.
But I kind of did that in the other place, so it wasn't too much of a shift. I think it was like, how are we going to make this place look like a clinic, you know, and how are we going to make this a first class experience when essentially it was a shell, you know, and that was tough. And, you know, kind of the usual challenges of getting workmen at the right time. And then also it was just a concern, like, how am I going to pay for stuff? Like, when I finished my job, it was just okay, you're doing that. So, you know, I wasn't working there anymore. You know, there was no time to think about or plan as such. It was just, right, I was here, and then I was straight into the business. You know,
did you have good cash flow? Had you saved up some good money before you opened it up, so money wasn't a pressure? Or do you feel you may have gone into a bit early and didn't have the right amount of cash flow behind you? Because I always think that it's one of the things that holds a business back sometimes, where I think some podiatrists may open their clinics maybe 12 months, 2 years too early, where they could have saved more money, set the clinic up, and not had the financial pressure. Because when you got financial pressure, sometimes I know you're making some decisions you make could be made better when you know the money is behind you.
So I was very lucky in that my granny said, you know, I've got some money and I wanna give you £20,000, and that's what she did.
Yeah, that's
She
always
gave me
handy.
£20,000, and that's what I had. And I just felt like an absolute millionaire, as you do. I was like, oh, this is amazing. And then you realize, and I'm so lucky like that I had that start to my business. And there's no way that I could have done it without her help.
Yeah.
But like she wanted to see me, she wanted to see me enjoy my inheritance, which is what that was. So it was 20 grand, you know, and we still had to really scrimp on that because of what things cost. But that's all I had. You know, I had no savings, literally no savings at all. And I didn't.
And I know someone
lend
listening to
money.
this might be thinking, oh, well, that's okay for Zoe because, you know, somebody gave her some money. But that's what I mean, that, well, if you don't have the money, then just wait another 12 months, 2 years. Don't take holidays, save your money up so that you've got that cash flow to do it. Now, if you happen to have a parent, a grandparent that can give you some money, then that's a bonus. All it does is really speed up the process. But no one can use that as an excuse for not setting up their own practice if that's what they want to do.
No, and let's face it, you know, 20 grand, even 5 years on, you know, it doesn't go where it probably did 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And, you know, at the time it was a big amount, but by the time you've bought an autoclave, you've bought 2 treatment chairs, you've bought a TV for your gait analysis, you've bought a treadmill, you know, you've bought instruments, and it just goes, and then I realized that I had to wait before I could buy other things.
Yeah.
You know, it was very much a baseline, you know, and I would always kind of say to people that, you know, setting up, I think it depends on what you're trying to achieve. You know, you only need a patient, a bed, some cleaning materials and a nice space if you want to do gait analysis, but just kind of depends on what you want to achieve. But yeah, you know, I was really, really, really lucky, but I made £20,000 into something, you know.
How long into having your practice did you hit that point where you went, oh, I'm actually starting to make some money? Was it a year? Was it 6 months? Was it the first month?
I remember it. Obviously, I had no overheads really. I mean, it was me, it was patients, and it was my rent, and that was it. You know, I didn't really have any overheads. So in the first year, it was great. I was like, I might be able to buy a house. I might be able to actually get a new car. You know, I started to kind of think there's more to life than the next paycheck, which is how I lived up to that point.
So when you were an employee, you pretty much lived week to week. You got your paycheck, spent it, enjoyed life, didn't save too much.
Yeah, basically. I didn't have any spare money. No.
Yeah. And that's why I say to people that I think it's important. Like when I graduated, I went and set up my own practice right from day dot. Didn't work for anybody else. And I've had people ask me, oh, do you think that's a good idea? And I say no, because in hindsight, I wish I had worked for somebody else for a couple of years. Not so much just the experience side of things, because I was lucky that I connected with a couple of podiatrists who'd been out a lot longer than me, and they taught me a lot in the first couple of years. But it was more along the lines of just working for someone, just enjoying the work, learning, having some holidays, having a bit of fun, and not stressing so much. Whereas when I set up my practice from day dot, it was from day one, I had put myself under pressure that this business had to perform. And it took me 10 years before I really figured out what the hell I was doing. It took me a long time because I hadn't been in another business to experience some of the mistakes that they had made.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing, like when you go on your own, you know, everything is you. You know, your mistakes are you, your successes are you. Everything about that business is you. And, you know, I don't have anything against, you know, people who want to be employed and not go down this route. It's probably in some ways. I sometimes think quite a sensible way to go about your career, you know, because you can love your job and you can love your patients, and you can kind of go home and not start work when you walk through the door, you know.
Yeah,
But
I
that
find it
just
funny.
wasn't the route for me.
Yeah, there's some people though who I've seen, they'll have a practice set up, and with the amount of work they put in, the time and effort, and the business is not run very well, with what they make, they would be much happier to stay as an employee. So I do think some people feel, I have to have my own practice because that's the next stage of my career. But I don't believe you have to. I think you can be a really happy podiatrist, being a very good employee and being really good at what you do. And there will be people chasing you to get you to come and work for them.
I just think I totally agree with you. I think there's like two sides to the profession, and you know, some of the stresses that kind of I deal with as a practice owner, and I'm sure you deal with as a practice owner, you know, you kind of wouldn't wish it upon people, but it's the hunger, it's the passion, you know, and it's the drive, and I'd never see myself doing anything else. But that was my chosen path, you know. Doesn't mean that everybody has to have that path. We're all kind of in this rat race of the world, and it's like we need to be doing more, we need to be achieving more, we need to be showing, and you know, don't get me wrong, like I probably fall victim to that as well, you know, but it's not always about that. I think it's being content, you know, in the job that you have studied so long to do, and commit yourself to, you know.
And I think everybody, it depends what happens in your life that will spark you wanting to do it. Because when I was younger, I never really thought about working for myself. It wasn't something that I went, oh, one day I have to work for myself. I know as a 12-year-old, just say to my parents that yes, one day I'm going to be a multi-millionaire and retired by a certain age. And my parents would go, oh yeah, what makes you think you can do that if we couldn't? Okay, because I'm smarter than you. So this is when I was 12. But I think when it really clicked with me was when I was 17, and my dad used to sneak, he was employed, and he used to sneak out of work on a Wednesday afternoon to come and watch me play rugby league. He used to do it every Wednesday afternoon. And this one particular Wednesday, I was playing the game and I looked on the sideline, he wasn't there. I've gone, that's unusual. What happened? Anyway, his boss caught him trying to sneak out and and cracked about it. And my dad wasn't at that game, and he died a week later. And he was only 49. I was 17 at the time. And that just, something went off in my head right there and then. One, I was upset and I was angry, but it made me realize if I don't work for myself, I'm going to be controlled by somebody else. That I can't just sneak out when I want to sneak out, or just block something out in the diary that suits me. So that was what set the fire off in me as a 17-year-old, that I am going to work for myself because I'm not going to have what happened to my dad happen to me. And it was the same thing. It was at the same time when he died. Yeah, he didn't have life insurance. He was only 49. He thought he was going to live forever. And yeah, that's what gave me this real burn that I wanted to work for myself. I wanted to achieve certain things. I wanted to make sure my family was well looked after. And yeah, so I think everyone's going to have different reasons for wanting to do it. I've never told that story before. So there you go. Something new.
Yeah. You're making me like even more passionate. I'm like, what am I going to do tomorrow?
But it is. I think everyone has to find that burning desire. If you want to work for yourself, there's got to be that burning desire to want to do it. And there's got to be a reason and a purpose and a big why that drives you. But if you don't have that, I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. I see people who are employees and are so happy. And sometimes I go, I wish sometimes I was like that, because they seem very content, very happy, love their work. They go to conferences they're enjoying life.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with you. I really do. And I look at my staff and I'm so lucky, you know, with them, and they love the challenges that I give them, and they get excitement from that, which is understandable because there's a new thing every week, you know. but no, you know, I've always thought that with my staff, like I've always felt very grateful for them, But I've always kind of thought, no, Zoe, not everyone needs to be like you.
Yeah.
You know, my partner tells me that all the time. Not everybody is you, you know, and that's sometimes hard as well. Like, it's trying to just understand people's different desires, isn't it? And wants and needs.
Is what's your partner do?
What
does your partner do? Yeah.
So he now works for he works with me.
Okay.
So he's a product designer, and web design, and yeah, so he's kind of more the design side of things. So his previous job was like design engineering. So he used to design like shower enclosures and like the hinges and like very intricate things that, you know, and he was very successful at. So
you don't think about those things. Someone has to design those, don't they? You sort of just, you see all the things around your house or every fitting, and you go, oh, there's a fitting, but somebody had to actually sit down and go, this is what it's going to look like, and this is how it has to work.
But it's like us with feet, isn't it? You know,
yeah.
Our masterpiece is that, their masterpiece is that, you know.
So, you set up.
I'm always interested in that.
Oh, no, I was going to say, so you set up your first clinic in 2017 or 2017, and now you've got 2 clinics. What made you decide to, you've set up the first one, you've got it all up and running, everything's going great, and you went, oh, I'm going to do another one. What made you go down that path?
I wanted another one.
Because I just wanted it. Yeah, okay.
It's like, it's so funny. I think when I am quite impulsive, I'm just going to be honest about that fact. My decisions are not always calculated, but I know that when I do make a decision, I'm going to make it work.
Yeah.
You know? So we were at a friend's house, and they said to me, we got into a conversation about life and business, and, you know, and they said to me, Zoe, if you could have a dream clinic, where would it be? And I said, right, well, you know, along the A65 on the way back to our house, there's that stone built type industrial estate, and they're all very plush, and there's these really nice purpose built buildings, and they've got parking and a lovely view. And I was like, there. So we were driving home that night, literally that night. And I was like, stop the car. And we literally turned around to those exact units. This is no lie.
Yeah.
For rent. This unit is for rent. This exact unit. And I was just like, and I rang the guy off the side of the road, and I said, you know, can I come and look at this place? And it was in the midst of COVID. You know, people were still a bit like, you know, not really coming out, and a bit cautious. But there's something about the way that I think about things. And when people are more cautious, I move forwards. Now, I don't know whether that's because I think everybody's sitting back, and maybe it's time actually to move forwards, and why that goes on in my head, I'm still yet to tell you. And then we went and viewed it, and I said, well, this is it. So that was that. So
and I know a lot of podiatrists over COVID. There were a certain group of podiatrists that struggled through COVID, and there were a lot of podiatrists that I know, and some that I was doing coaching with one-on-one, that their businesses boomed over the past 3 years during COVID, while some others were tending to struggle. And I think it's just that not having fear about, it's not sort of just retracting and being scared. It's just take on the challenges when they present to you. But the good part about you finding that building, they always talk about your reticular activating system in your brain, that when you start talking about something, you start noticing things. So because you had that conversation, that was churning around in the back of your mind. So when you went past that building, you've probably gone past it before and not noticed it for rent. And all of a sudden, because you just spoken about it, you go, oh my God, there's a for rent sign there.
And it was just one of those, it was like, this is crazy. You know, this place is massive. It's huge. Like, you walk in and you're like, there's a room there, there's a room there, there's a room there, there's a room. And it's like, my other clinic is like a room and then a room above it.
Yeah.
the waiting area is a corridor. Like it's, you know, it's not really, it's not set up for it at all. But I just could not help but just feel something when I walked in there.
How far apart are the two clinics?
They're about like 20 minutes drive from each other.
Okay. So you're going to keep
the-
both, or you're going to put your focus and attention into the one super clinic?
Do you know, it's so funny. This, I was, yeah. I knew you would ask me this, because recently I've seen another clinic and another space, and for the first time in my life, one of the first times in my life, I said no. And that is
okay.
That's a massive thing. Like, I don't say no to anything. And it was like being dragged away from something you just love so much, you know.
But I think that's a good thing, because I get presented opportunities all the time. And I've had people say to me, oh, are you ever going to open up another clinic? And I go past places and I go, that would be a great place, or that would be a good spot. And I know I could do this here and I could do this there. And even though part of me saying this would be great, another part of me is going, yes, but you've gone down a different path at the moment. So do you want to go back down that path? So sometimes it's just a mental struggle. I always think there's always going to be another opportunity. Opportunity doesn't knock once, it knocks every bloody day if your mind's open to it.
But I had to think at that very moment, I had to think about my goals, and I had to think about where my goals are going, and I had to think about my health, you know, thinking about your health, you know, your physical.
Well, you don't want to end up with hair like me. If would not look good on you.
I do. This is a no.
That's a wig. Yeah, okay. I'd love to say this is a wig, and I actually have hair underneath it, but I don't.
And it was like, it was a turning point in my life, because I realized that, yeah, you know, I'm going down one route, and I love doing things like this. You know, I love talking to people about the profession, and, you know, we've got some exciting things in the pipeline. And I had to just, you know, realize that maybe enough's enough, but it will enough, you know, it'll never be enough kind of thing. But it's like, the second it's gone in my mind, I either go back to one, or I have loads. And that's literally, I think when you have two, it completely changes things, like completely.
I agree. Two clinics doesn't double your income, but it definitely doubles your work. And there is a point, I think, when you can have one clinic, two clinics, three clinics, four clinics, but it gets to a point that there's a lot of work involved when you're running a small number. But as you get bigger, and I've seen podiatrists that have 10 clinics, 15 clinics, once they get a lot bigger, then they can actually employ people in specific areas to sort of manage things. And it's like a tipping point where you get to a certain point where there's a lot of work, but then eventually it does become manageable. Like
somebody once said to me, and it resonates with me when I think about it now, but like, don't be a busy fool, you know? And I just love that, because it's so true, you know? And I think, well, I'm busy now. I'm not a fool yet, but like, I'd be on the cusp of it if I was to open another place. So now's not the right time. And it's been a nice learning experience to have had the opportunity and the strength to say, actually, I'm okay at the moment, and we're going to keep going as we are and building a robust, you know.
Yeah, well, the same, what happened to me, I don't know if I probably have shared this story before, but when we had 5 clinics going, and they were all busy, everything was just booming. I remember I was away one weekend down at one of the clinics, might have been on the Sunshine Coast, and my daughter at the time was 6. And I was talking to her on the phone, and she said to me, "So Daddy, why are you away all the time?" And it just broke my heart. And then what happened, I had a flashback to when I was 17, that moment when I decided I was going to work for myself. And the reason I was doing it, and my big why was I wanted to look after my family. I'm thinking, well, here I am, I'm setting up all these clinics, and all I'm really doing was doing it for my own ego. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't do that, but when I realized why I wanted to work for myself and why I wanted to make money was to look after my family, spend time with them. And here I wasn't spending time with them. And it was at that point, all of a sudden I decided to sell things off. And I went down to just having one mega clinic, which when I did that, that just suited me. I was so much happier with one big clinic that I could come and go when I pleased. I had an awesome team working in there. Everything ran pretty well without me. And I was spending so much time with my family. So I then got to what it was that I was actually after.
It's powerful, it is. And I do think that, the new place has been the best thing I've ever done. Like there's absolutely no doubt about it, and yeah, but it's, sometimes you have to, as you sort of get older and stuff, like when you're younger, your parents might say, they might say something to you kind of like, I don't think you should do that, but I'll let you learn for yourself, and as you get older, you see people doing things and you're like, but I just want to, and then you think, but they need to learn for themselves, and I don't know, it's interesting thing.
Well, I'll get probably every week I'll have someone contact me about doing coaching, and then I'll explain to them, okay, this is how it works. I said, I'm not your normal business coach. I do things differently. I think differently. I go to events that other podiatrists don't go to. I know some really crazy people in the world that I've learned some stuff off of spies and interrogators. And it's just, and you apply this all back to business, which is great. And then I'll talk to them and I know where they're at in their clinic right now. And I know I can take them for wherever they are and I can make their business so much better. But they'll say, I might wait 12 months until I have a bit more money together before I do it. And I go, okay, and that's their decision. But I know that 12 months that they wait is costing them so much because I can see the mistakes that they're making. I can see the things they don't have in place. But sometimes people have just got to go through that themselves. They've got to experience a bit of pain. But I've seen other people who I know have got business coaches early in their career and they never went through the pain because the business coach showed them, don't do this. This doesn't work. You're like being a parent. So
I think go on.
Oh no, I was just going to say, so obviously business has gone along. The first business went well. You were able to, you had a good start. The business has gone along well. All of a sudden you put it out there that you're going to have an awesome business, another one. You found the place that has actually grown really well. Was it because how well that grew that you then got nominated and won the business award?
So the business award was the biggest shock of my life because, you see these business awards, right? And some of them are legit and some are not. And that's the truth. Like it is. Some of them are just so corporate. And, honestly, I was like, I really wanted an award. I really wanted an award. And I have done like for a long time, I've just been like, oh, how amazing it must be to get recognition in that way, not only for yourself and your team, but also the profession for podiatry, it's like really, really cool. Anyway, so we got this email and I remember getting the email thinking, oh God, here we go again. Like, it's just like another corporate event. And I've never done one of these events, but there was like a little blurb that someone had actually wrote about me. And it was very patient focused. It was very patient perspective. And I was kind of like, maybe this is legit. Anyway, so I kind of looked into it and it was indeed legit. And I thought, well, we'll give it a go. And then I got to know a little bit about the Enterprise Vision Awards, and it was an award for women. And I just kind of thought, well, this is really cool. And when they basically what they do is they kind of you get nominated and then you decide if you want to put forth you fill in a form, kind of like your form that you fill in before you kind of come on here. And it was just a bit about you and what you do for people and why you love your job and all of this. And it's just totally alien. I was like, I don't know what they want to hear. And I just said it as it is. And then what happens is you then get put into the category, which is health and well-being. And there's hundreds of people in this thing.
Yeah.
You know, and I said, well, how many is there? And she said, 300 or 400 people in this category. So I was like, all right. And then you get invited for interview. So what they do is they read your blurb, and then they put you into a finalists thing. So there was 7 of these. No, hang on, let me think. You basically had to do an interview.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember. You did an interview, and you have a panel of like 6 people.
Yeah.
And they're all like, don't know anything about podiatry. And they ask you all these questions. And I remember them saying, oh, this is kind of the sort of stuff that you should be saying, and send you an email before, and, try and guide you on it. And I thought, I'm not preparing. I'm just going in because I know that I can talk about this profession, to the ground and back up again. I love every aspect of it. And then you get nominated as a finalist, and the finalist goes to the evening event, and of which there's 800 and odd people from different categories all over the region, and they don't announce who wins until the night.
They're fun. I actually think any podiatrist gets an opportunity to enter an award, whether they nominate themselves or they've been nominated, is just do it, because the process, I think what you learn about yourself going through it. We were in we got nominated for the Queensland Telstra Business Award, which is a really big business award. And I remember putting in my application for it, and I wrote up we got nominated, had to answer all these questions. I filled it out, got my wife to read it and said, see what you think of this. It was like 20-page thing you had to put in. She read it and she went, that's the biggest load of shit I've ever read in my life. I said, what do you mean? She goes, what the crap? What's all this crap? She goes, that's not us. That's not you. She said, rewrite it. Okay, so I rewrote it, and it was funny. And I put in funny pictures. I put photos of us dressed as Mexicans at parties, us getting smashed in the rowing by a women's team who were really good, I must say. And I really just took the mickey out of us. Put that in, and then the next thing, same thing. We get this phone call, said, oh, you're in the finals. I went, oh, okay. I hung up, said to Christine, we're in the finals. She went, what's that mean? I said, I really don't know. So I rang them back and said, what's the finals mean? They said, oh, well, we fly you down to Brisbane. There's 6 finalists in each category. There's going to be 600 people in the room. And the winner will get announced. So we were in a category of, I think, 5 to 20 employees, any business. It didn't matter what it was. And we were up against international cordial companies, and we just sat there. And when we won it that night, it was just, well, I didn't even write a speech because I wasn't expecting we were going to win. Yeah. And I remember getting up there and saying, I realized that most people have 3 speeches: the one they prepare in the head, the one they actually give, and the one they give to the steering wheel on the way home. And that got a couple of laughs. But I think whether we'd won that night or not, and we'd gone to some other awards since then, whether we won that night or not wasn't really important. It was the process of what I learned about myself and my clinic just by answering questions and being interviewed. Couldn't put a price on it. And I think you've probably found the same, because I can tell by the smile on your face.
Like when they interviewed me, I was just thinking, I put an hour aside beforehand, and I put like a foot behind me on like I had these little stands, and I put a foot on it. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I had no idea. And I terrified myself when they interviewed me. Yeah. And I was like, I came off it, and I was literally like, holy shit. Like, I couldn't have chose a better career if I tried, and that was a big feeling. Like you say, you learn things throughout the process that you didn't really realize.
Did you invite friends and family to the event, or did you just attend yourself? Because I know when I went, when my wife and I went, it was in Brisbane. All my family was down in Brisbane. I didn't even tell anyone it was on because I thought there's no point telling anyone because, yeah, we're not going to win. So there was no point.
Same.
And
Yeah,
I did
so
tell my mum though. I did tell my mum. I said, "Oh, mum, I'm coming down for this business award." She went, "Oh, is it like a podiatry award?" I went, No, it's a business award." She said, "Yeah, but you're a podiatrist." I said, "Yeah, but I also own a business." She went, "Are you sure they haven't made a mistake?" So
Really?
I did tell my mum, but I didn't invite her.
Oh. Yeah, so I invited my mum and dad.
Yeah.
And my mum was like, so it was in Blackpool. I don't know whether you've heard of Blackpool.
No.
Right, okay. I'm trying to think.
Have they got
Anyone
a soccer
who's from
team? Is that the Rovers? Blackpool Rovers?
Right,
No.
okay. So when we come off this call,
Yeah.
you're just gonna Google Blackpool. Okay. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, you keep talking. I'm going to Google Blackpool while you're talking.
Right, okay. So Blackpool is
I'm very interested now.
Blackpool's like showbiz, sort of like, it's where they do Strictly Come Dancing in the big hall, and it's very sort of like there's Blackpool Pleasure Beach, and it's quite historic.
Blackpool
I'm being very
Pleasure
positive.
Beach. Blackpool Pleasure Beach.
I love that you've never heard of it. This is great.
I've never heard of it, but it seems very. Can I read what Blackpool is here? So for anyone who's listening, it says Blackpool is a seaside resort on the Irish sea coast of England. It's known for Blackpool Pleasure Beach, which sounds a little kinky, an old school amusement park with vintage wooden roller coaster. Built in 1894, the landmark Blackpool Tower houses a circus, a glass viewing platform, and the Tower Ballroom, where dancers twirl to the music of Wurlitzer organ. Not sure what that is. Blackpool Illuminations is an annual light show along the promenade. Sounds
so it's like basically, I don't know how to say this sort of politely.
Jesus, this podcast is educational.
People are just gonna like, from England, or just be laughing their head off. So it's basically like this really kind of, do you know, like tacky, and it's very like, sparkly and glittery, and it's quite a, yeah. So anyway, so it's in this big ballroom, and I had this dress, and I was like, I'm so Blackpool right now. It was like a sparkly dress, like I could have been in Strictly Come Dancing. And it was, it was such a great event, and, a historic place. And, you walk in this ballroom, and it's famous, the Winter Gardens, it's called. It's like this famous ballroom. And it was just an electric night, it was a great place.
Yeah,
to have it.
I can see, I can see the look on your face, and I can hear it in your voice, how much you actually enjoyed it. Even though like you did win, which sort of makes it even more spectacular. But I think even if you hadn't won, you would still be talking about the event, that it was, that it was a great night.
It was fantastic. And it was all women.
It sounds like Atlantic City in America.
Yeah. I'm sure it's probably like somewhere, maybe not.
Okay, so after winning the award, and this was something I found when we entered awards as well, when you win that award, all of a sudden, all these doors open up, speaking opportunities, people are contacting you, there's interviews for the paper, which it's not just winning the award, the amount of publicity, free publicity you get for your business, even when you're a finalist, because I remember when we were a finalist, big write-up in the paper. When we won it, my God, it was in the business section, that was all these write-ups as well. And that really was a big stepping stone for our business.
I mean, it's opened a lot of doors in terms of, we send emails out to the patients all the time on foot education and, general foot health and, how they can progress the fitness and all things like that. But then we'll send out a newsletter, and in that newsletter we'll put about, what ZW clinics doing this month, kind of thing. And we talked about the awards, and all the patients coming in and saying congratulations, and and all the recognition, all the emails we got back, and the paper did do a write-up, and nobody had won it like in this area before. And they've done it for about 9 years, I think, this particular awards. Yeah, it really was.
And you met some cool people as well, I bet.
Yeah, there was. And I was just reading all the finalists in my category, and I just thought, I haven't got a chance. I haven't got a chance. Little old me with, you know, podiatry clinics, but I knew that I couldn't have given any more to the interview, and so I just hoped that was enough, and it was. So it was great. I was like, podiatry.
Yeah, well, I know the Telstra that I went in, since my clinic won it, that there's been a number of podiatrists that have entered it over the years. Ted Jedniak, the foot mobilization guy. And I remember Ted said to me that when he saw that I won it, he went, "My God, a podiatrist won it." And he spoke to me. He got nominated himself. He spoke to me the year he went into it, and then he won it I think it was the year later or 2 years later. So I think it is so good for podiatrists to enter the business in these awards when the opportunity arises, because it is really good for the profession. It's good for yourself, it's good for your business, but it is really good for the profession as a whole to let people know what it is that we do. Yeah.
It was so nice to get up there and say, like, you know, this is for podiatry, this is for every single patient that we spend our lives, we commit our time and expertise to getting better, you know. And those vary on a great scale, the different people that we help for different reasons. It was a big moment, and it was straight on UK Podiatry as soon as it happened. I was like, you know.
But that's what I mean, when it opens up doors. One, you ended up on this podcast because I noticed that you won that award. And I'm sure after this podcast, you will end up on other people's other podcasts as well. May not be as good as this one, but you will end up on you will end up on other podcasts, and you'll just keep feeding off this. So you set up your own Footcare product range as well. And that's getting launched pretty soon. What's the product range? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So ZW Footcare, I literally sat in the clinic one day and I was like, this would be a good idea. It was in the midst of lockdown. It was in 2019 that I actually decided to put the plans together. My partner Will started to do the packaging. That was the biggest headache of my life, was packaging, warnings, cautions, directions, ingredients. Like, oh my God, didn't really appreciate the process at the time. But I wanted to bring a natural, eco, effective product range, and that's what we did. And we have 6 products at the moment. We have 1 product about to launch, a new product. We work with a local skincare company. All of our ingredients are sustainably sourced in the UK. All of our packaging is sourced in the UK. We're now, for the new product, we've got eco labels. We're going down that eco route because it's so important. And I don't believe that a product should be effective based on the packaging that it's in, you know, in a pretty plastic tube that's going to end up somewhere we don't want it to, you know. So there was this kind of big drive for that side of things. So we have an everyday foot care product, we have a heel product, we have a nail oil, which is the new one that's come in. So that's sort of like naturally antibacterial, antifungal, and it's kind of like rich in essential oils. So a lot of the products have a really strong scent depending on what the active ingredients are. So you can smell them before you see them, kind of thing. Which is quite nice. And then we do a product for active feet. We do a product for legs. We do a product for very sort of dry, eczematous type skin.
So all these products, is this on your website? What's the website that people would go to for this?
So it's zwfootcare.com.
Okay.
And that is the product range. So we supply to the public, but we also supply to podiatry clinics at the moment across UK and Ireland. But we're also now starting to get requests from further afield.
Oh, that's good. So what else are you up to? What else? Yeah, obviously you have a lot going on, because I did ask you, do you have any talking points? And a lot of the times I don't always get to the talking points because we talk about other things. But what else have you got going on at the moment?
So at the moment, I've got a new, sorry, my dog's just come in. I've got a new partnership with Physio Matters. So Physio Matters are a podcast based in the UK. They provide free online CPD. They are the founders of Therapy Live, which is an international online event. They're now doing in-person events as well. You've probably heard of it. So that came about when Ian Griffith said to me, "Oh, I can't make this event. Can you step in?" I was like, yeah, I definitely can. And then, so what we're doing at the moment is we're working on a clinical guide. So the clinical guide is 10 conditions of the foot. It's like a little booklet, and we sell it to different professions, and they can learn all about some of the intricacies of pathologies that we see day to day in clinic, the demographics, the clinical presentation, the clinical tests. And I'm doing a presentation for them on football injuries for the World Cup in November. Good. So that's going to be a good one. So the tickets have just launched for that.
So did this come about because of the award and then the profile that you built, or this was happening in the background regardless?
Yeah, I mean, I love speaking. I really enjoy conferences. I got asked to speak kind of last year, I guess, when it really started, or the year before. I think I've done a bit here and there.
Yeah.
And then one thing leads to another. So then this year, I was asked to present at an orthopedic conference on Achilles tendinopathy. And then I did a presentation on foot drop at the main conference this year at the Royal College. And then there was something with OSCO with the foot and ankle show as well. So I do really enjoy educating and giving myself more work to do, I guess.
Yeah, but it's also giving back to the profession. Yeah, you get all this knowledge, you gain all this knowledge, and yeah, you can have a successful business and you can hide away in your business and give nothing back, or you can have a successful business, successful career, and share what you've learned with other people. And yeah, well, they say a rising tide lifts all boats. So that's what you want to do. So before we wrap up, have you got a final point or a final tip that you could share with someone? Someone's sitting at, they're sitting at a bus stop one day and you sit down next to them. And like I always say, I don't know what you're doing at a bus stop, but you just happen to be there. And they go, "Oh, you're Zoe Wilson. I heard you're on my favorite podcast, the Podiatry Legends podcast. What's one tip you would give them about business, life, or their career?"
Yeah,
I can edit out that long pause. It won't be edited out of the video, but I'll edit it out of the podcast, because what it'll sound like that you bang, an answer just pops straight into your head.
I think there's a couple of things, if I may.
You may.
But I think if you have a deep passion about something, never stop chasing that, because you can make money anytime, but to really be, in the depths of passion about a subject, I just think it's the best feeling in the world. And I think people, they sometimes work within the realms of limitation, and they feel that maybe I can't do that. And I would just say, yes, you can. And there's people there to help you. There's people willing to have you shadow them and learn from them. And I just think, if there's a desire to do something, then just do it. That's what I would say.
That is a brilliant tip. So, award-winning podiatrist Zoe Wilson, I want to thank you for coming on the Podiatry Legends podcast, sharing part of your story, your knowledge, your wisdom, and your inspiration. So thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you. Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
It has been fun, hasn't it? Okay, see you later.
See you.